Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna. Here we are with our Bhagavad-gita as it is. On our channel Bhagavad-gita, here it is. Book is translated and commented by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labangala Tika. We are in the 6th chapter, Jnana Yoga. Jnana means meditation, and here is more like that classical form of yoga that we kind of are familiar with from the cultural tropes. And Krishna is bringing it to the internal point. It's not about the external activities. It's about where does it take us? What does it do to our consciousness? What realizations are involved? I am reading text 30. Yo mang pashyati sarvatra sarvang cha maye pashyati tasyahang na paranashyami sa cha me na paranashyati. For one who sees me, this is Krishna speaking, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. And if you are studying Bhagavad-gita by learning some verses by heart, this is one of those core verses that are nice to put on that list. Purport. A person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna, a position transcendental even to material liberation. At this stage of Krishna consciousness, beyond self-realization, the devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in loving Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated, nor is the personality of Godhead ever out of the sight of the devotee. So it becomes very personal. It is not that Krishna consciousness or yoga is just a religion. It's not that it's just a belief or a faith. It's also not just a question of negating the problems with the material world, because that's the idea of liberation. This material world is very troublesome, let's get out of it. Yes, that is of course an understandable sentiment, but when you get out of the material world, what is next? So that is an important question, and it's also important to find a good answer to that question. What happens after liberation? So here we see something very it looks a little bit simple, that devotee is with Krishna and Krishna is with that devotee. And after hearing this whole structure of yoga and philosophy and ancient civilizations and the universe and the spiritual world, yet we come back to this very simple point that isn't simple at all, because it's the basis of everything. Relationships are the basis of everything. You look around, whatever you see, of course, people will enjoy their entertainment and their gadgets and their all the things around you in life. But if there's no one to share it with, then this will not be satisfying for very long. Like when we saw in the 90s, computers and the internet and everything came up, and there was a great interest in the technology of it, but gradually it has all turned into one big social media chat program. So okay, the technology is there, it's getting more and more advanced, and it's no longer that free internet for everyone. It's more like a free marketplace where everyone is selling everything. And yet what drives it is relationships. People go in there to connect with their friends or to find other people who have the same interest, because relationships is the basis of everything. Desire is the basis of everything. If we didn't want anything, nothing would happen. So we hear that here we come back to these things because they may sound simple, but they are real. This is reality. We are living entities. We are persons. Krishna is a person. And with all the yoga methods that have different, levels of realization, Jnana Yoga can take you to the level of Brahman realization. Jnana Yoga can take you to the level of Paramatma realization. But ultimately, the complete realization of ourselves and the Supreme is that realization that comes in Bhakti Yoga, the realization of love. In that realization, you see yourself and you see Krishna and you never forget him. And then everything that is difficult falls away. The material world, a realized soul can be in this world because they are not entangled by it. But in this world, everyone, even up to the level of liberation, if after that liberation there is no situation in relationship, in love, then it's not sustainable, because we are persons. We have that nature, we have that need to be connected in a relationship. And if we can't have it on the spiritual platform, we will fall back to this material world and look for relationships here. So that's, a devotee becomes one with Krishna in the sense that Krishna becomes everything for the devotee, and the devotee becomes full in love of Krishna. An intimate relationship between the Lord and the devotee then exists. In that stage, the living entity can never be annihilated. Yes, I read that. To merge in Krishna is spiritual annihilation. A devotee takes no such risk. It is stated in the Brahma Samhita 5:38. Premandyanaachurita bhakti vilochanena santaksadeva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shyama sundaramachintya gunaswarupang govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Shyama Sundara, situated within the heart of the devotee. So this is the Brahma Samhita. It's a very ancient scripture that is actually spoken by Lord Brahma, the first living entity in the universe, the creator, in a sense. We may not reach the Srimad Bhagavatam, but I hope you will access it in some other way. There is a description of creation, which is secondary and primary creations, which basically means that all the ingredients of the creation comes from Krishna's energy, and the ability, the intelligence, everything comes from Krishna. But Brahma is the person who does it, he has a body of pure intelligence, and he accepts this service to create the structure of the world. And he met Krishna there in the beginning of the universe, and he has something to say about him. He worships that primeval Lord Govinda, who is always a person, and who can be seen, it's very poetic, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, can be seen by the devotees whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. So Krishna is not seen through a telescope or anything like that. He's not understood by mental speculation. But the way to see Krishna is to act in such a way that Krishna will want to see us. So when Krishna sees that we are developing that love, then he will reach out to us, and he will see us, and in that relationship we will see him also. If we meet that sometimes, people who say, I don't believe in God. If there is a God, show him to me. This is a little bit foolish and quite rude. It's just like I would say, I don't believe in the Prime Minister. Of course, I'm in Sweden right now. I don't know when this will be played, but while we are recording it, we don't have a Prime Minister, or Statsminister as we call it, because they haven't been able to agree and cooperate. We had an election, and different parties had different representatives, and they could not agree on how to cooperate, because the balance is too even or something. Anyway, the point I'm saying is, if we had a prime minister, then I couldn't really come to anyone and says, I don't believe in the prime minister. If there's a prime minister, show him to me right now. And I'd say, the prime minister is busy. He has his own life. He's not going to come here right now. You know, you can read the newspaper. You can watch the television. He'll be all over the place. You can ask someone else. You know, what to speak of God? He doesn't have to show himself. The way to see God is to want to see God. And the way to not see God is to not want to see God. And that's why we have a whole material world full of people who don't want to see God. And Krishna makes it eminently possible to forget him. That's one of the miracles of this world. One of the miracles is it's possible to see him in everything. We can see him in the creation. We can see him in life. We can see him. We will have further chapters here where Krishna is showing examples of, you know, how to see him. Of I am the taste in water. I am time. I have come to engage everyone. So whenever we see some of these manifestations, we can immediately think of Krishna. But if we don't want to do that, then we don't have to. And also, Krishna also doesn't have to prove us right or wrong, because that's not what the material world is really for. So we don't want to be rude, we don't want to be demanding, but we want to be sincere in trying to find that relationship, trying to understand who we are, trying to understand who Krishna is, and how to interact in that sense of loving devotion. At this stage, Lord Krishna never disappears from the sight of the devotee, nor does the devotee ever lose sight of the Lord. In the case of a yogi who sees the Lord as Paramatma within the heart, the same applies. Such a yogi turns into a pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. So that's our Bhagavad-gita. We get the very basic philosophy, very basic understanding of the nature of the soul, of this universe, everything. And we also come to the point where we are invited into that loving relationship with Krishna. Such a yogi can turn into pure devotee and cannot bear to live for a moment without seeing the Lord within himself. So that's what we can look forward to, you know, not to have a discussion. Like, I remember when I went to school when I was a lot younger, and sometimes I was a little bored and a little restless, and then I just wanted to waste the time, and I would be one of those kids like, what can we actually use this for in real life? Why do we have to learn this? And then I could manage to waste, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and I would feel really clever. And the teacher must have heard that a million times before. And actually, really, probably, if I'd spent that energy just learning the stuff, I would have been better off for it. Or not. I mean, maybe it wasn't essential. That's also possible. But when it comes to Krishna, we don't want to come in with that attitude. Why should we believe in Krishna? What's the use of Krishna? Here on page 352, I think there is a logical fault or a spelling mistake or something like that. That's not how we read Bhagavad-gita. We read Bhagavad-gita because we really want to have access to that beautiful, eternal young boy who's standing, playing a flute, calling his cows and calling his friends and calling his girlfriends, and how that realm that is just full of that love is accessible to us. But we start with the Bhagavad-gita. We start with practicing our sadhana bhakti. And even before that, we start by being a little sincere and a little respectful, and realizing that we may not know everything, but actually we may not even be able to understand everything. But Krishna is fully able to connect to us and show himself when he sees that love in our hearts. Thank you very much. So we're having this Bhagavad-gita channel. Bhagavad-gita, here it is. Thank you for watching. I am a little hopeful that maybe if you have some questions, you will put them in the box under the film, and I can come back as soon as I see them and try to respond. We are posting new installments every Tuesday and Friday. Mostly we manage to be on time. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,